Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our Living with Jesus series. Today, I'm here with Carolina Corada. Welcome, Carolina. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here, Brittany, because we
Yeah.
are such Jesus's girls.
Yeah.
So it's such a joy to meet up with that backdrop. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you here. I just wanted to mention to people that I first met you in 2013 when you offered your very first Ibiza-Enlight festival. And I was invited to be a teacher. And I just want to highlight what a beautiful, amazing, divine experience it was. It was one of my favorite experiences having to do with bringing people together and, of course, the miracles and just celebrating the light and Christ. And I will treasure that experience for the rest of my life. And so I love you. I adore you and all that you're bringing to the world. And yeah, I really look forward to learning more about your relationship with Jesus today.
Yes. Wow. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, it was lovely meeting you and having that opportunity. I think those of us who were there in that first festival, it was before and after kind of experience, because then, for example, here we've had six festivals in total. The last one was in 2019, and each one of them has brought something new, of course, and a different transformation experience, but nothing like the first one, because in the first one we had no idea how that was going to work out. It was all in the making, in the devotion, in the organization. But then when we actually saw the people there and the teachers there and all the activities happening, it was like, one minute after the other, because we had no reference.
Right.
So it was quite an amazing sharing that we got to have together. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. And it was refreshing because even though there were so many of us that came from around the world as teachers, we were equals with the students. And I was put in the position of student and teacher in that experience. And it's just so humbling. And that's really the platform for miracles and for Jesus to really be made present and available for all of us to be with and learn through and heal through. And it's just, you felt that presence. And I can tune into it now, even in my heart when I think about it. So it's definitely alive in my mind still. So much
Well,
gratitude.
Jesus had a big part in this festival, and maybe that's where we begin.
Yeah. Listen to
Um,
that.
I'm just remembering Scott Grace's story. Do you remember his story?
A
When
little bit. Yes.
Scott was one of the teachers we invited, and I didn't know Scott, but Steve did, my
Mhm.
co-organizer. So he wanted to invite. So he called Scott, and Scott said, "Are you paying me for this?" And we said, "No, we don't have funds. We will pay all your trip and everything. That was like 2,000 euros worth of expenses, but we can't pay you really." And then he said, "No, that he needed the money, blah blah blah." Okay, fine. So he tells us afterwards that about a week after that he was praying and in meditation, and he was, surrendering to Jesus and asking him, "What would you have me do? Where would you have me go?" And he said that he heard very clearly, "I want you to reconsider the festival. It is my festival, and I will get the people there, and you need to be there." So he called us, and we were like, "Okay." We knew that.
Yeah, exactly.
We knew that.
Oh,
So it was wonderful that he could hear and follow that guidance. So
yes.
I think there's quite a few of us that have that direct line to Jesus
Yeah.
through an open heart and an open mind, and especially I was thinking about this today in my initial moments of joining with Jesus when I was very young, and I was thinking that I had to overcome the fear of love
Mm.
in order to establish a relationship with Jesus, because there was fear. There was fear, even though Jesus has been part of me ever since I remember, maybe as a teenage girl. I come from a very spiritually oriented family, not religious at all. We were not religious, but my mom did transcendental meditation and she taught us. And when I was like 15, we went into the Silver Mind Control program, and that was very helpful. And she was a yogi, so she did yoga. I saw yoga in my house since the 70s, and that was very uncommon in Venezuela, where I'm from. But we had that, and so it was a very open-minded kind of environment. And for me, for some reason that I didn't know then, Jesus attracted me a lot. The character. So I was always reading about Jesus, not necessarily going to church. We didn't go to church. I did not believe in the crucified Jesus. That was not. I believed in the man, in the guide, in the in the great leader. That, and so everybody kept giving me books. Oh, this is the latest book on Jesus, and oh, there's the new picture. I'm talking to you when I'm about 19 or 20. All my friends would give me for my birthday things about Jesus. They thought it was very funny that I was that I liked the character so much. And then um, many extraordinary things started happening, and maybe one of the first ones was when I was about 24. I was invited to meet this teacher. She was a lady. She was maybe in her 60s then, and she was a Sai Baba follower. You know Sai Baba?
I do. I love Sai Baba.
She was a Sai Baba, and I went to her because I had my spiritual quest on my own. I
Yep.
prayed and everything, and I meditated, but I'd never been in the presence of a teacher. So
Okay.
somebody recommended her, and I went. And then the first day that it was like a very vibrant meditation. She would put her hands over your body without touching, and there was movement inside. And in a meditation that she guided, um, I it's a long one, but I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. But
Please,
I
yeah.
saw myself like in a small pond, and I had gone very deep, and I had scraped my hand with a rock,
Hmm.
and I went to the surface, and then I saw a hand. I couldn't see whose hand it was, but there was a hand who was caressing my wound, and the wound healed. And then when I turned over to see who it was, I'm pretty sure it was Jesus, but I didn't see his face. I just felt the
Sure.
presence, and I said, uh, okay. And it was very beautiful, and I told her, we shared it, whatever. She gave me, we met 5 times once a week. It was a long meeting, like 3 4 hours. So I went home, and that night I went into a very deep prayer, and a journey started where I went through a jungle, and then I found an animal who took me to a cave, and I entered the cave, and I found Jesus in the cave. And he was sitting on a rock, and he said, come and sit by me. I have something to tell you. And he gave me a lesson. This is all with my eyes closed at night. Yeah. That night after that meeting with her. And we spoke like maybe for an hour. And then he said, we will meet here every day, twice a day. Come in the morning, come at night. And okay. So I did that week, and I started getting the most amazing teachings. He talked to me about, oh, I don't know. I've got little notebooks with all the writings, but he would do things like, for example, I went to meet him one of these days, I don't know, in the morning, at night, whatever. And then we met in a cave, and he said, you see that? And then there was an opening, and he said, go up there and just sit and be honorable. And I said, okay. So I went up through the hole in the cave, and there was like a Buddhist monk. And he was sitting, and it was the desert, and he was just sitting there with his eyes closed. So, I mean, I was 24. So I looked down the hole, and I said, you know,
What's this?
what am I supposed to do with this guy? And he said, just sit there in front of him. And I do it like for an hour. And then I came back and he would hug me and then I would come to be. I remember one time I had a fight with a boyfriend who he wanted to get married and I didn't feel I should. And he was from the Arabian countries, from Syria, the boyfriend. And then I went to my regular meeting with Jesus. And when I went into the cave, he was dressed up as a motorcycle guy, with a black leather jacket, and the jeans were ripped, and he was like really cool. And I said, "Oh my goodness, are you? Are you you?" And he said, "You are just too. You gotta get us out of this place."
Ooh.
So, and then he gave me a lesson on my relationship. Well, this went on for 10 years, more or less, maybe a little less, maybe 8 years, and then the course came to me because my most important things have been deposited at my door, and this happened with the course. Someone brought a photocopy of the
Me
course.
too.
And I was just speaking to some guy yesterday from Argentina. He was telling me that that had happened to him too. So, well, and when I started reading this, I knew that voice. You know, I knew that voice. So I can say that Jesus has been part of my life actively every day since my early 20s. And I only recently started talking about these conversations that I had with him because I thought that was very private, that I didn't have to tell anybody about it. And I usually don't, only if somebody like you asks me. So I don't think I've done anything without Jesus telling me. At least, I'm not here to convince anyone. Nobody has to believe me. But this is how I've felt it, you know? This is
Yeah.
how I felt it. But there was an experience a little bit, maybe a little bit before I came with the course, that the course appeared in my life. The course came in my life in 1990, 91. And at that time, I was working in an oil company in Venezuela.
Mm.
And I had a friend, and she lived just across the street from the office. And she invited me to lunch once to her house. And she lived with her mom. We were both very young. So, okay, thank you. So I went for lunch to her house and I went in, and her mom wasn't there yet, but we started, preparing the table, whatever. And then the mom pops in and she looks at me. And then she looks over my shoulder and then she looks back at me like, and she said, "Do you know who walks with you?" And my friend looked at me and she said, "I'm so sorry, my mom is a little psychic." And I said, "No, that's fine." And I said, "Yes, I know who walks with me." And she said, "I see him." And she asked me, "Do you see him?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And then there was a conversation happening there about that relationship. We had a little conversation. This was so many years ago. But I remember that woman looking at me and then over my shoulder, you know, and me kind of seeing, like on the little side of my eye, I could see Jesus here, just right
Yes.
there. So I have seen him with my eyes closed and within me. I have heard him and I have seen him with the eyes open,
Yes.
which, yeah, yeah, really strong presence in my life.
Oh, I love this so much. I can like feel the peace just through your story and what you've kind of been through with him. And like there's a few things that really speak to me is that Jesus has almost shown himself to you through all of your senses, like you're saying, your sight, your heart, your feeling, like inside, outside. And I feel like that's important to highlight with Jesus, is that he will seem to speak to us or come to us in the way that we need him the most. And sometimes it'll be different faculties, sometimes it'll be all of them. But just to, if we are open to him, then that gives him the space to kind of show himself to us in the way that we need it, or the way that we can receive it the most. So I just think that that's so beautiful. And I really love hearing that you say that you don't really do anything without his guidance, without him telling you what to do. I would like to flesh that out a bit more. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like to you? How do you know that it's Jesus's guidance? Can we lean
Yeah.
into that a little bit?
Well, yes. For me, the communication with Jesus has to do with certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't always have the certainty. I don't always have the certainty. I mean, the ego does flush into my awareness the doubts and the fear or whatever that is still remaining to be healed, only by his hand, of course, by Jesus. But I do remember before I knew the Course, one of these days that I was in these conversations that I'm telling you, and I'm sitting in a upright meditation position, which was not always the case. Sometimes I was lying down, whatever. And I remember him telling me, okay, now move your right hand like this, and then move your left hand like this. He gave me like certain instructions. And then he said, open your eyes and I will present myself. And I was so scared. I cried like for 2 hours, and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm scared." And I did it. I and then he called me down. He said, "Okay, that's okay," you know. And then that changed as the years, many years went by, maybe 10, another 10 years. I've been a very devoted student, but I've been a slow student. It's been
Mm-hmm.
slow
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I've never rejected or hidden the fear of love, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the paranormal, and this kind of thing. So when you ask me about, let's flush up some of this guiding possibilities. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's been very slow. It's like in my inner communication, I've had some shaken. I mean, I felt shaken by Jesus, like,
Sure.
I want to give you this. And then at the same time, when I've heard with clarity what my next steps were, and I've had very dramatic, very extreme guidance in my life, and I've always said yes. And then I've said, I need the certainty
Yeah.
because I will not take a step if I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And then I know I've discovered, and of course, with the help of the Course, when it finally came to me, was that that certainty would only reach me if I trained my
Yeah.
mind
Mm-hmm.
to, stay to one side and let the message reach me. And that was not an easy thing to do, but I was devoted to doing that, to actually learning to question the personal intentions of my
Mm-hmm.
little self
Yep.
and put them to one side, and then learn to be comfortable and normal with the idea of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I could bring myself to that place, then I could listen. Then I could be guided. And many times the guidance had nothing to do with what my little self wanted to do. For
Yeah.
example, my family migrating to Europe was very extreme, very extreme. I did not want to do that, but I asked for the certainty, and it came. So I had no choice. I
Yeah.
like that the experience of not having a choice.
Yeah.
That I can only follow the guidance, that all the other apparent possibilities just disappear.
Yes. I resonate with this so much. The language that I've put to it when I've been receiving guidance is certainty, but it's also just like a yes, yes, yes. that you know that this is what you're supposed to do. And like you said, it's like it makes it easy because you know then you're just waiting for that certainty, and that he will tell us all we need to know, and he will guide our lives very specifically. But a lot of the time, kind of like you're saying too, we'll be asked to do some drastic moves sometimes that, to maybe to ourselves or to our family, it doesn't make sense. But to him and to the overarching vision, it makes perfect sense. And so I think that I also wanted to highlight here that not only does his guidance come through certainty and this feeling of like, yes, 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 but it also comes when we step out of the way and we step to the side and we really keep our ego in check. And like you said, like asking, what is my intention here? Getting clear on the why. Because when we let the ego be in check and stand to the side, we've created that space where he can fill us. And he can really show us what we need to see and give us what we need to hear so that we can actually follow him here. And I think you could probably agree that when we devote ourselves to him and devote ourselves to training our mind to get out of the way so he can guide us, that he's always guiding us through peace and through joy and through brotherhood and sisterhood, and that it always does encompass everything we would ever want or need, even if it is scary at first, because it's outside the box. Like you're saying, it's the unknown. It's like the paranormal. It's like, what's going on? I'm talking to the seemingly voice in my head. But the more that we tune into his presence and tune into his love and tune into his guidance, it's stable, it's consistent, it's something we can really trust when we open to our willingness to trust him and to step aside and to listen. So I really love hearing that come from you. It's a development, like you said. It might be a little slow, but this is not a race.
Well, it was slow for me.
It was slow for yeah, yeah,
And I'm okay with that because
exactly.
every step of the way was perfect.
Yes,
It could not have been any faster.
exactly.
It was perfect every single day. Uh, since I was around 24, I had a meaningful conversation with Jesus twice a day, every single day. And he spoke to me about everything. And then when the course came and I trained my mind, then I stopped going in the morning and at night to see him. And after a little while, I felt like, oh my goodness, I've left him. I've abandoned him because I'm not going in this deep meditation to talk to him. But I still felt him. I still heard him. And then I remember one day I was, like, oh, Jesus, I'm so sorry. I haven't been coming in the morning and at night. Maybe 15 years had gone by.
Okay.
And I heard his voice very clearly saying, you don't need to come in the morning at night. Don't you hear me at all times?
Oh,
I
yes.
said, I do. So that was a change. That was an important shift in my relationship with Jesus because before I thought or I felt that I had to dedicate a particular time of the day to our meeting. And then he became like my oxygen. I did not have to think about going to him because he was my breath
Yeah.
all day long. I felt him with me all the time.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's so beautiful. I feel like that's what he's training us to do, is to remember that he's with us always and he can never leave us. And it doesn't have to be certain meditation times or certain like church times on Sunday, that he wants us to know he's with us all the time. So
You do
love
have to
hearing
start
that.
somewhere, no?
You have to start
In,
somewhere.
in,
Yeah.
and if it's some meditation or a prayer at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of the week, or um, nowadays, at this time in my life, where I'm no longer raising children, I don't have a job,
Mm-hmm.
quite content with myself in my own personal company and his. I look back and I see how in every stage, because I can feel the stages of my devotion and the development of the communication. I feel that in each stage I thought, this is it. This is how it should be done. And
Right.
then I was shown very much that was just another step.
Yes.
So in my mind, whatever you are doing, whatever those who are here with us are doing, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
perfect. It's I feel honestly that there is not one correct way to uh, trigger a relationship with the teacher, uh, because there isn't.
Mm-mm.
Like you said at the beginning of our conversation, he will discover which way he can communicate with you
Yeah.
in a way that the fear will be diminished,
Minimized.
and that you will be open to being guided. Because one thing is to listen, and then another
Mhm.
thing is to follow through.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. That's often the harder part, the following through. Really takes us stepping out of our own way. But I love this. And I think that those who are listening will find, benefit in this, because I even can relate to it in the sense that at the beginning of the journey, when I was learning to establish my relationship with Jesus, I would go for walks. That was how I did it. And I would talk to him on my walks, and I would talk to him inside myself, and I would feel his presence that way. And I felt like that was helpful for me because just the fresh air and just the movement of my body, I can let my thoughts go free. I just felt like that was the way that he really would come to me and speak to me. But I also hear a lot through just like clients and friends that they hear him the most, either through the Bible or through the Course in Miracles or whatever path has kind of been brought to them. And I'm always a big believer of like, just start with what's been given you and just give your all to it, give your heart to it, and be willing to step back and be like, like, what does this mean, Jesus? Like, how could you show this to me differently? And start to activate that conversation, that communication through our willingness to ask. And then when we ask, we do indeed receive in the right and perfect way that we need it. So yeah, he meets us right where we are, and that's part of why I love Jesus.
I also, I think Jesus is the perfect symbol for many of us
Mm-hmm.
on the Western world.
Yeah.
I don't think that the symbol Jesus needs to be used by every single person on this earth.
Right.
I have a family who belongs to, I'm not sure the name of the religion. I think it's Christian evangelic or something like that,
Okay. Yep.
where they do believe that if it's not through Jesus, there's no way home.
Right.
And those, for example, this is my brother. He believes that I'm lost because I don't
Mm.
follow his religion.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then he sees me and my life, and he says, wow, that is such a powerful reference.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he doesn't believe in the Course in Miracles, he only believes in the Bible, that
Right.
it's so obvious, the guidance, that he can't
Mm-hmm.
fight it. But what I meant to say with this is that I think the symbol of surrendering to an inner teacher can take
Mm-hmm.
whatever form whoever is ready
Yeah.
to receive. In our case, for whatever reason, because we were born on this side of the world or whatever, with this cultural background, Jesus resonates. But
Yeah.
I've met through time, and you know this because of the festival and because of my travels,
Mm-hmm.
I've met people from many different countries and cultural backgrounds and religions, and I have met my Jesus through their eyes with a different symbol.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So in my heart, it's very clear that the inner teacher will take the shape or form that you need.
Yes.
And it might not be a bearded guy. It might be a woman or an animal or
Yes.
whatever. But as long as you can find the certainty
Yes.
that the vibration is love,
Yes.
then you've got your Jesus or you've got your teacher. Because I have seen and heard and like most of us, how in the world um, in the name of Jesus, people had fought
Yeah,
and resisted and rejected, you know. For example, I'm going to tell you something that you don't know.
please.
You were part of this. And
Woo,
it has to do with the festival,
woo.
that first
Okay.
festival. There were
Yeah.
three organizers. There was Steve,
Yep.
Salvador, and
Yep.
me.
That's right.
Salvador, who was the Spanish guy, he knew the course. He was sort of a student of the course, but he was not into Jesus.
Okay.
Okay. And you know how Ibiza is very hippie, very bohemian, and this and that. And I wanted to put Jesus's drawings, you know, like this one. I wanted to place it in different areas of the festival. And he said, over my dead body.
Oh, wow.
You are not doing that. And he made a big deal out of it that he would be so embarrassing that he was not going to have, we were not going to look like a Christian church with a
Mm.
drawing. And he was so upset. And Steve and I would look at each other and said, this is a Course in Miracles. It's
Yeah.
Jesus' voice. No, no. He made such a big deal that I don't know if you remember, but there was not one drawing or photo or mentioning of Jesus, like in the
Mm.
decor or anything.
Right.
And that broke my heart.
Yeah.
And then the festival finished, that first festival finished, and we went into the second one. And by the second one, Salvador was a believer, let's put it that way. And
Yeah.
he said, you do whatever you need to do. And then I plastered the festival with different drawings and appreciations of Jesus and this kind of thing. But that first time, he was like,
Mm.
no.
Interesting.
There was
Yeah.
fear. He was embarrassed
That's
that
it.
his friends that would come from Ibiza would judge him.
Right.
But it was completely incoherent, you know, because I
Yeah.
mean, we are the Course of Miracles. There is no other teacher, but it was it was it was too much fear. And then, of course, Steve and I, well, we did fight him a little bit, and then we realized, you know, when a brother tells you to walk him a
Yep.
mile, walk him three. So we said,
Yeah.
okay, can we do a festival without having a drawing of Jesus in the
Right.
decor? And we said, yes, we can.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is not a drawing of a man in
Exactly.
wound, you know?
Exactly.
Jesus, even the name goes beyond. He's the
Yeah.
Prince of Peace. So
Yeah.
we need to embrace that. It doesn't matter if the form seems to be not exactly what you're comfortable with.
Yes. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. But that makes perfect sense. And it's back to what we were just saying before. We got to meet our brothers where they are. Jesus meets us where we are. And it's up to him to open up the hearts and minds of others whenever they're ready. And so we don't have to force Jesus on anyone. It's like you said, it's not about the pictures. I mean, the peace that was felt at that festival was enough. Like anybody who was open to Jesus, it was clear his presence was there. He was definitely being celebrated. And clearly that's enough, and I think that this is so important to point out that it's not about the specific symbol. It's about the message of peace. It's about the message of love, and however that is to show up to us, will show up to us. Like, even for me, I wasn't ready for Jesus at the beginning. When I started my spiritual journey and coming to know myself and wanting to know my purpose, I couldn't even say his name. I
Mm.
couldn't say his name. I was embarrassed. I was uncertain. I was unsure. It had all these connotations to it that I was not a fan of. But love worked for me. I was like, okay, I can believe in there being a loving power. I can believe that there's something loving that is greater than myself. So let's just let this love teach me and see what happens. And for me, it ended up leading me to Jesus. But I believe that if we hold on to that loving presence itself will reveal itself in whatever way is needed, and it'll speak to us in the way that we need, and that's enough.
Well, you know, now that you're saying that,
Yeah.
more memories come back from that
Sure.
first festival. And there was a morning where everybody was in class. So all the common spaces were empty. And I was there. I don't know why I was not in class. Maybe I was, I don't know, solving a problem or something. And then, you know, it was open. Anybody could walk
Mm-hmm.
into the premises of the festival. And two girls walked in. and I watched them. Uh, They were not part of the festival. They were just kind of stranded or just curious. So they walked in, they walked around the pool, they peeked into the tent, they went to the little bar that we had there,
Mhm.
had a tea. And then one of them came to me and spoke to me. They both came, and one of them spoke to me. She said, "What is going on here?" Remember, there's no sign of Jesus anywhere.
Yeah, none.
None at all. No Course in Miracle book anywhere.
Right.
Okay. So, and I said, "Why do you say that?" And I said, "Because we're walking around and there's just the Christ presence here." What?
Yeah.
They were feeling
Mhm.
that. And I said, "Yeah, well." And then I explained to them a little bit what we were doing. And yeah, they said, "Wow, it's powerful. We can feel it." They were yoga teachers looking for a
Mhm.
place to do yoga, I think it was.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
That's it. It's felt. I can even feel him right now. So I love this. We've definitely explored a lot of the questions I wanted to ask without even asking the questions. So that's showing how in sync we are. This is really beautiful. But I want to ask this question and see how it's taken in this moment. But if I ask you, how do you view Jesus's role as teacher of humanity? I think we've maybe touched on it a little bit, but how would you answer that question? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think the teaching power in this world goes beyond the symbol of Jesus. I think the teaching power of this world is love and compassion and unconditionality and non-judgmentalism. So I I can't see my life without Jesus because it's never been without Jesus in my particular case. Um, but I would not impose Jesus as the teacher of humanity because I know as a fact that that symbol does nothing for so many people.
Yeah.
Now, I also have seen in diverse cultures and diverse countries people who resonate with the symbol of Jesus, even though it's not in their culture or their religion or the story. So, what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that the symbol of Jesus as the great teacher, the great guide, the great healer is used by those who want to use that symbol. It's not better or worse, than any other symbol, as long as the backdrop is what Jesus is teaching, which is not his teaching. He is the one Son, and we are joined. So that includes every single aspect of those of us part of what is known as humanity. So there is no separation in any of us who are part of humanity. Now, the symbolism is irrelevant. Irrelevant. I know the Bible says, I've never read the Bible, but I've had people tell me, that you can only reach heaven through Him. But we need to go beyond the idea that Him is a body, that Him is a man, that Him is Jesus born in Nazareth. For me, no one reaches heaven except through love. And that love can bear the name of Jesus, but it can also bear another name. If the vibration is the right one, then we will meet there. And I've had this experience, meeting with people who are not Jesus followers, who have other symbols, let's put it that way. And then when we meet, we recognize each other.
Yes.
And we let the symbols go. And we know that we are following the same teacher,
Yes.
that the healing is happening unanimously, that we don't have to agree to heal.
Yes.
You know, that if we
Yes.
allow the teacher to show us the way, we will be shown and we will meet, and the symbols will disappear and will no longer be needed.
Yes. Mm, that's so beautiful. And I keep hearing you, one of the characteristics that you mentioned of Jesus, of love, is like non-judgmentalism. And I feel like that is so essential when we are meeting each other and we're coming to know one another. That if we come with the open heart and the open mind, with our love of Christ, our love of Jesus, but are open hearted and minded to the other, wherever they are, whatever they believe, whatever symbol stands in for the love for them, then, like you said, we do meet one another. We do come to know each other and realize we're a lot more the same than we are different. But we don't have to agree on the nitty-gritty details of
We
what our
know.
symbol is or what he looks like or where he came from, because the content of the message is the same. If the content is the same, we meet in truth and we can have those beautiful, loving, shared experiences and exchanges that, like you're saying, go far beyond the symbol itself. So I think that this is so beautiful and so important to remember for all of us, that if we just take that open heart and mind to one another, then we really can see where we're much more the same than different, and
Yeah. And
have
it
beautiful
doesn't matter
experiences.
if he was born in this world before or after Buddha, because I've had
Right.
that conversation. Oh no, Buddha was
Yes.
first. Oh, but the course says that Jesus was the first one to awaken, and I don't care.
I don't care. Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not going to argue with that. You know, I
Exactly.
don't
Whatever
really
works
care.
for you. Is it working? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I support you. Exactly. Exactly. It's such a much more free way of just operating and living in the world. And I feel like Jesus's message then can be accepted by, a lot more people when we're not trying to force anything on anyone else, that we're just living our life. We're just demonstrating it in our life. We're practicing listening to him and training our mind and following him. And the love speaks for itself. And the love will meet everybody wherever they are in their life and teach them in the way that they need it.
And like that experience that we had with Salva and him not allowing us to put any photos or anything mentioning Jesus in that first festival. For me, it was hard because I did want to talk about Jesus, and it was my festival, and whatever, I had a little grudge there that I had to let go. But then through time, I've come to feel that it's okay to be quiet as well.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't need to sell Jesus to anyone. That those who are interested, those who want, will come to you, and then perhaps a conversation can be had or an exchange can be had. But if your brother or sister is not ready for that, silence is the best extension of love. Just the love, just the love, and observing vigilantly that there was no judgment in Jesus's mind. So if there is judgment in mine, I'm the one who's wrong, not the
Exactly.
one I'm judging, but myself. So yes, there is a powerful teaching to be received, and there's a constant message, but the message is not a message in words. For me, it feels, even though I do hear words at times, but it's more of a vibration. It's more of a vibration that undoes my uncertainty or undoes my grudge, if I have one, or more and more and more. I feel how could I say? I feel I share the same values that Jesus has shared with me. And when I don't, it feels unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
By this, I mean to say that there's no denial that there's still a judgmental mind that
Right.
offers me a treasure once in a while.
Right.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yes.
Um, but then at the same time, that feels very unnatural. It's like
Yeah.
wearing a shoe that's too small. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can't hold onto this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think he's a great teacher, the
Mm-hmm.
best
Mm-hmm.
for
The
me.
best for me too. I hear you. I completely agree. And I'm hearing the quote, actually, I think it's from the A Course in Miracles, that says, when you know who walks with you, um, what does he say? When you know who walks with you, like fear becomes impossible.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what you're leading into. Like the ego will offer us, perceived treasures of fear and of doubt and of uncertainty and of judgment. But once we've connected with the source of love and we've connected with the peace and judgmentalism, when those offerings of fear present itself, it's so opposite and contradictory to the love that it's like, like no thanks, like not interested. And it becomes a lot easier to then like turn away from the ego and turn fully toward the light, fully toward Christ, and be like, okay, I trust you. I don't know what to do. That's what I thought. That way sucks. Like, let me trust your voice, right? So it becomes this constant learning how to discern between the love and the fear within. And I just find that the symbol of Jesus for me, and it sounds like for you and others that I'm interviewing, that he helps us to remain vigilant and focused on the path of love for ourselves, for him, for our brothers and sisters. And sometimes that includes just patience and trust and practice and listening and prayer and all these things. And if we're willing to try those on a little bit, then it does lead us to our own experiences where we do start to really know the difference between love and fear inside of ourselves. And it just makes life living on earth so much easier. Like you said, I don't know how I would be able to live on this planet without mind training, without Jesus, without the A Course in Miracles at this time, because I feel like it's what's helped to keep me in peace and sane when the rest of the world is in upheaval right now. And so it's so important, I think, to remember that we do have an inner teacher that we can turn to and call upon and ask to lead us and guide us, and we will be shown how to follow, how to do that.
And I do think, in my experience with Jesus, I've been guided to joy, to happiness, to peace, to
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness. And that's the main guidance. But I have allowed myself to be guided in form,
Right. Same. Yep. Mm-hmm.
you know, as in this is the way, you know this is what needs to be done, and this is where you're going now. And I think that really, really, really presents itself as a great step, because as part of humanity, uh, we can meditate and listen to Jesus in our mind, and then the ego takes charge with
Right.
regards to the choices in the world, as to where you're going to live, or who's going to be your partner, or what job you're going to take, if you're going to move from one country to another, if whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been part of me in that way for so many years, and he has affected not only me but my family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was funny to hear my mom when she was alive, and she would say, "What did Jesus say?" And I would say, "Whatever. We need to move, or we need to do this and that and the other." And she would say, "Okay, well, if he said that, let's do it then."
Oh, beautiful. Yes. All in, mama.
So it was. This was the same with teenage kids, when my kids
Mm,
were teenagers. And I think we need to develop a
yeah.
spiritual. It's not strength; it's daring.
Ooh, yes. Daring, courage.
Okay,
Yes.
it's okay to do it in your mind, but what if you're called to action?
Yes. That's it. That's where I feel like Jesus comes alive, is in the action. I feel like that's where God's laws get called upon, because as we give, we receive. And so we are being asked to let him be our guide, even in the things of form. I love that you're saying this. This is reminding me of like when Tom and I were first in California and we got pregnant. And my mom, my family, like my mind is like, you got to go home to Canada. Like, you're going to have this baby. You can't be doing it in California. You got to go home. But when I tuned into my heart and I asked Jesus he told me, he's like, Brittany, you're at home in your heart already. Like, be patient. And I stayed in California with this family, with Tom, for 6 months before I came back to Canada to have our kid here finally. But I was waiting for that conviction, for that certainty that said, yes, 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 it's time to go home. And I realized in hindsight, like, I wasn't finished in my relationships there yet.
Mm.
You know, I really needed to live it out, really get to experience the fullness of still being like not yet a mother. There was so many yet to be experienced healing experiences with these people, that if I had just listened to my own fear that said, oh my God, you need to go be safe, be close to your mom, I would have missed out on developing that faith and trust in me, developing those relationships, developing my trust in Jesus. And I just so many missed opportunities. But because I was willing to just be like, okay, I'll remain where I am until you tell me to leave, it was the most joyful, beautiful experiences that I would never trade for anything in the whole wide world, you know? And so I think that's really important to point out here, is that he's not just teaching us inside the quiet and the solace of our own mind, which he does do, but he is also wanting to direct our lives and really direct what happens in form in all aspects of all of relationships in life on earth. And I think that's really important to point out. And that's also how we have our life come in accord with peace, because we let him be the decision maker of all the things that happen here, instead of ourselves. So, yeah. So I guess in conclusion here, Carolina, is there any final thoughts or words of wisdom or anything that's coming through that we might want to offer to our viewers or listeners today?
Yes. I open my heart. My heart goes out to everyone, to the Jesus within, beyond the symbol. So if you're listening to this and Jesus is not the symbol that you like, be not worried about that. Open your heart and your mind to a very vibrant light. Because the time of Jesus, as we think we know him, was very short on this earth as a man. Very, very short and very specific culturally for where he was born, the time, the place. But that is not the Jesus. The Jesus that we actually are to be guided by is the Christ, is the one who has joined the Father, who is not a man either. These are just symbols and words we use to make it easier to express. So it's not really a wisdom, but it's a very humbling experience of being a constant follower of a light, a very bright light. And wherever my mind wants to take me or my body wants to take me, I am the seeker of the light and the follower of the light. I am never a leader. I am always a follower. And it is my most joyous time of my life. This time when I can be not distracted by other invitations and know that I am safe when I follow.
Yes.
So I invite you all to be a follower of the light. You might call it Jesus or not.
We're not. uh, so much amen, Carolina. Thank you for spending this time with us today and sharing your experiences with Jesus, with Christ. I know that so many people will be able to just meet us in this place of peace with us today. You've provided a beautiful container for this joining. So I thank you for your time and for your presence and for all that you've shared with us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for remembering me
Oh,
and joining with me.
always. Oh, I love you.
Love you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.